Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about what's in your IFAK or your individual first aid kit. Alright everybody, thanks for joining me today. Today we're talking about what you should have in your IFAK or your individual first aid kit. Now, let me start this out by saying I'm not a medic or doctor, so you need to do your research when you're looking up these items. And I highly suggest you attend some kind of emergency medical training or first aid medical class. I've taken similar classes to that in the past, and this is the list that I was given for what I should have in your IFAK. I'm passing this info along to you and hoping that you guys will get the training. However, most of this stuff is pretty simple to use without a ton of training, okay? If all you can do is buy the products that I suggest and learn how to use them from watching YouTube videos, you have a better chance of saving somebody's life than somebody who just buys the product, sticks them in a bag, and never even looks at them again. So, let's talk about what an IFAK is. Basically, an individual first aid kit is designed for you if you sustain an injury. You can use the contents, or somebody else can use the contents if you're too injured to do so to save your life. It's really not for carrying for somebody else. Now, in a two-person team, let's say my wife and myself, okay? If we were out, she would have her own, and she would have gear maybe in here that she needs for her specific needs, whereas I'd have stuff in here I need for my specific needs. If you take heart medication, let's say, if you're diabetic, whatever, maybe you want to put your medication for that in there, and a note, but as a general rule, the IFAK has really one purpose, or two purposes. It's to get you to stop losing blood and prevent you from going into what's called tension pneumothorax. That's basically a progressive buildup of air within the chest, usually due to a lung laceration, which allows air to escape into the lungs but not return. Okay? So basically a punctured lung, which can happen from knife wounds, gunshots, shrapnel, whatever. So you understand what that is. So, we're going to go through it. I'm going to take out the parts and I'm going to show you what I feel you should have as a basic kit, and then I'm going to show you my additions to it. So let me tear everything apart and we'll be back. Okay, so the first thing on the whole kit, and you'll notice it's on the outside, is a cat tourniquet. Now I have this set up using, because my maul webbing isn't big enough to put it through there, I just have it set up with rubber bands. So it's easy to grab, easy to get at. I had it in here, and I was told that it's a better idea to keep it on the outside. So if somebody needs to rip it off your pack and get it to you, or you need to rip it off and treat yourself, it's right there, no digging, okay? People will ask why a cat tourniquet. Well, it's used by the military, it's simple to put on. It's the most common, so most people will know how to use it, even if you don't know how to, and it has a proven track record. Now, when buying a cat tourniquet, please make sure you're buying a real one. There are tons of Chinese fakes out there. And I believe if you check out Skinny Medic, for those of you that don't know of his channel, he has a whole video on real and fake cat tourniquets. Next up, combat gauze or quick clot gauze. It's a hemostatic agent within the gauze to help coagulate the blood and control bleeding. You'll also see quick clot sponges, which is what I have in here. This could be used for an area where a tourniquet can't be applied, or where an injury doesn't require it. And this will stop the bleeding. And I also have something else in here that I use as well, and I'll show you that when we get into the kit, but my own personal stuff. Next up, H&H compressed gauze. Pretty much does the same thing that the combat gauze does without the hemostatic agent to control bleeding, but it will control bleeding. You wrap it around, this is what it looks like. You'll wrap it around the area, and it can be used for less serious stuff, like bad cuts and scrapes, things like that. You can use it to cover an eye. You can take pretty good care of yourself with it. So this is H&H compressed gauze. Pretty much available everywhere. You'll find it pretty much everywhere online. And I do have a link to some of these items, especially the more difficult items like the narrow phase interior airway and the chest seal. So I have that in my Amazon store if you can't seem to find it anywhere else. But I know the nasal pharyngeal airways, they're pretty hard to find unless you actually have a medical supply place. All right, and that's what we're on to next. But first we're going to talk about the Israeli bandage. Israeli bandage has a compressive bandage. It's about a 6x4 pad. It can also use as you can also use it as a kind of an impromptu tourniquet. If you've ever taken these apart, you know what they look like, and that you can kind of cinch down on a wound and use it as a tourniquet in a tight spot if you don't have one, or if you have a second injury that requires it. It really works well. It's great for controlling bleeding and blood loss. Honestly, if I was going to any kind of big concert or something somewhere out to the open again, I'd probably have just one of these in my backpack. Maybe one of these and some Quick Clot. Not going to set off any alarms if you have to go through security. Nobody's going to think you're weird, because if they ask, you just say, hey, you know, I saw what happened in October 1st in Vegas and I'm just being safe. Okay. That's just my own personal opinion on it. Now, we're getting into something that kind of looks a little odd to most people. It's a nasopharyngeal airway. This is a size 28 French. It fits most adults, but again, that's something you're going to have to do some research on for your own personal use. I know this will fit me. It's the right size for me. If you do get one, make sure you get one with the lubricant on it, as it makes it fairly easy to insert. There you go. Let me bring that up so you can see what it looks like. Okay. Now, this is used to give the patient an airway. If sometimes what happens is when somebody goes unconscious, the jaw will commonly relax, the muscles in the jaw will relax, and it can allow the tongue to slide back down and obstruct the airway. And this makes airway management necessary. So this nasopharyngeal airway allows you to give an airway into the patient. And I wouldn't recommend doing this on yourself, although there are videos that people do this to themselves. I actually read the other day when I was kind of doing a little bit of research that some people will use these for sleep apnea. And I was just like, I'm not going to put this in my nose. But, you know, dangerous situation, you may have to. All right, next up, chest seal. We kind of explained that when I explained tension pneumothorax. This is for a penetrating wound, stab, or gunshot. It will allow the air to escape if you have a collapsed lung, but it won't allow air to enter the chest. So it won't increase the pressure within your lung. By applying the chest seal, you can give somebody, you know, a little bit more time to get to a higher echelon of care. There are many of these. This is just the one I have from North American Rescue. I have a different brand in my other IFAK, so as long as you get one from a reputable company, you're doing pretty well. Next up, trauma shears. You've seen these probably wondered what they are. If you didn't, you know, if you're not familiar with if you're new to prepping and new to first aid stuff, these allow you to cut away clothing without injuring the patient. All right. So, you know, if I have something burnt to my leg, if I have something, you know, where I had bad injury to the top of my leg and they have to cut up the side of my pants, these, if you notice here with that tip, will allow me to cut very close to the skin without a sharp pointy edge digging in possibly. So they allow you to cut really, really close and keep safe. Okay? Same with shirts, and you know, if you got to cut a shirt sleeve up, you can get under that and not cut the patient. Next up, duct tape. You want to secure whatever you've done so far, pressure dressing, stuff like that. Most of them will have some kind of way to secure themselves, but if they don't, a good old about 10 yards of duct tape. I think I have about 8 yards on here when I put this on. And what I did to make this slim so it fits in here is I just put it on an old key card from a casino in Vegas, and I just wrapped it around. Please make sure you get good duct tape. This is actually really good duct tape. Don't buy that, you know, D-U-C-K duct tape. No, buy the real stuff. Okay, lastly, a permanent marker. You want to be able to take notes on whatever you've done for someone, or you want the person who's taking care of you to be able to take notes. So if they're injured or hurt in some way, and there's some kind of unique injury, or you also want to be able to put a time on your tourniquet for when you applied the tourniquet. Lastly, gloves. You want to be able to prevent bloodborne pathogens from another person, okay? If you are using this to treat another person, or if somebody who doesn't know me from Adam is using this to treat me, maybe they don't know my history, they don't know what kind of illnesses I may have in my blood, and they want to protect themselves. That's why you need gloves. Gloves are handy for when you're treating other people as well. So that's pretty much it for the basics. Those are the stuff I feel that is required and really important to have. These are my additions. Okay. I put a little light stick in there. I've kind of stripped the top off because when I'm doing this, I may need light. And I may not be able to reach my flashlight. My flashlight may be broken, you know, whatever. I need light. I got it right there. Okay? This is another interesting little hemostatic dressing. It's by Cheetosam. I have not used these. I have been told they work very, very well. Basically, you open it up, it's a single pad, you just put it wherever bleeding is, and it stops it. So it's thin enough, I can toss it in there, it doesn't really take up too much room. Lastly, this was something that I received when I was taking a combat first aid class. And basically, you know, I mean, if somebody's sitting there and dying in front of you, you may be freaking out, you know, you may forget. You put a tourniquet on 1,000 times, but now you're actually doing it for real. Something like this can come in handy. You'll be able to kind of take a look at it, follow the steps. It may even just calm you down enough to continue treating someone, you know. Just having it as kind of like a training wheels, you know. Just something to look at and possibly help you in a serious situation. And the last thing, as I told you, a boo-boo kit. Yeah, I know. And some aspirins and leaves and allergy pills. And some Rolaids. Again, we are not military. We're preppers, we're survivalists, outdoorsmen, stuff like that. You know, if you can put something in to make your life a little more comfortable, and it's in a convenient place, why not do it? Okay? I also have Celox here. This is another blood clotting agent. It's a small little individual one. Again, more of this the better, you know. You're walking through the woods. We're not even talking about survival, combat, whatever. You have this on your person, you're walking through the woods, you fall, hit a rock, got a nice gash up your arm. It's nothing that needs a tourniquet, it's nothing that's the end of the world, but it's bleeding pretty bad. Something like that can come in handy without having to use the bigger stuff and the heavier gear. So, it's a little redundant, a little extra, but it can't hurt. And lastly, super glue. I'm going to switch this out for the medical grade stuff that I have. And I didn't do it before the video, darn. But this will work too. Actually, the one time I've used super glue to close up a bad injury on my finger there, I actually used this very brand of super glue. This is dollar store super glue, okay? But I do have some correct medical grade stuff that I have, so that's what I'll be putting in here after I'm done and repacking this little kit. The bag itself is from Condor. A fairly inexpensive bag. I put a little patch on it. I forget if I had anything in here. What is that? Oh, instructions for my tourniquet. That's it. So it's a simple little bag, you know, I mean, and this can be put, all this stuff here doesn't necessarily have to be in some kind of tactical looking backpack, you know. You could take, say, this and this somewhere if you're concerned, you know. Or you can take something like this and an H&H bandage in your pocket. You know, that's why cargo pants are so handy, because they fit pretty much everything in there. So anyway, that's my little spiel today on the IFAK, the individual first aid kit. It's what I keep in mind. You may wish to do different stuff. I gave you the first part, which was basically the important basics. And you can go on from there and look at the other stuff that's nice to have. Again, it's depending on what you're going to be using it for. But anyway, that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to shop our Amazon link down below. It allows us to bring you more content, cool stuff, cool gear. And don't forget to check out our Thrive Life store. Those are in the links below too. Lots of freeze-dried stuff. Now's the time to buy it. It's inexpensive. You can stock up now. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.